Travis Wayne Goodzo. Finished a bit early today. So we'll do part 2 of Tales of the LDS Church Apostle. And so we left off, because this is part 2. Part 2, I don't have a playlist for this, but it's in the first month's playlist right near the front. It's the September month, month 9. Alright. So to fill in, somebody who's been with me for years helped me out with the Joseph Smith papers, and for which I was able to compile Joseph Smith's actual works. It's just the first draft on academia.edu, the complete works of Joseph Smith. I still need to go through and format it equally so that it's uniform, and do editing tweaks to make sure that there's no footnoting from the Joseph Smith papers people, Royal Skousen, and go through and check to make sure that only Joseph Smith's works are in there. And so we're going to get to the big forged documenters that are dominant in the Joseph Smith papers, claiming to be from 1838, because the Danites are who they were. And so I'm going to give you exclusive information that will expose these Danites further for who they were and why they were so abominable, and why it was legitimate to have an extermination order for them, not for the Mormons as a whole. But that's how evil they were. If they were going down, the whole church was going down. And they succeeded in getting the whole church blamed for their actions. Alright, and so he continues. We talked about the Danites and how Joseph's called them evil disposed and designing persons who were militating against Joseph Smith. That's from verse 1 of the Joseph Smith 1838 history, where he forgot the name Jesus for the name of the church and who visited him. There's a reason, and it has to do with the Danites, false brethren within his church, the secret combination seeking to destroy Joseph Smith, because they found out that Senior was involved in 9/11/1826, that thwarted their plans to overthrow America back then, and resulted in having their temples burned down of Freemasonry. They wanted revenge on whoever saved America, and they found out that it was the Smiths. They found out that the Book of Mormon is that book that was going to be published to save America. And they murdered the leader. They stole the religion, stole the Book of Mormon and the scriptures, and changed it to Christianity. Gonna get to them. And so then he talks about, and in the Joseph Smith papers on 19th July 1840, he prophesied that Brigham Young and his 12, he's referring to Mark chapter 14, not the other Gospels that talk about this. His wording only comes from Mark, and Mark has to do with Mars, and Mars is the husband of Venus, the symbol of the inverted pentagram of Lucifer, the husband of the church of the devil. Lucifer, Mars, the usurper. And so he's calling out Brigham Young as the enemy of the leader of the Danites. These before me, whom I call my friends, will one day be on my track, more bloodthirsty than the Missouri mobbers. And so I got the full thing on the document. He just quotes a little portion of it there. You would think that they would be happy to hear about a prophecy from Joseph Smith that didn't make it into the Doctrine and Covenants. I was, when I was up in Canada, there was a Mormon bookstore by a Mormon in Lethbridge, and was browsing around and knew him because he's from the ward that I was at in Alberta, and saw on the shelves, that was up a little high, it's all eye level for me, unpublished prophecies of Joseph Smith. And oh, I was drooling to get those, because he's our founder. Why did these go unpublished? What the hell happened? I want to know what he's talking about. There's going to be some awesome stuff in there, I bet. Sure enough, now that the Joseph Smith papers have been published, got him. Thanks to the Apostle Paul. But they didn't ask any follow-up questions about that. It's the Mormon myth. The Constitution will hang by a thread. That's where it comes from. Upon the brink of ruin is the actual wording. And so, yeah, you can understand why Brigham Young did not want that published. And so, to tie with the Danites, he then talked about polygamy. See, this is the benefit of obtaining knowledge rather than maintaining faith. I was supposed to do that first, and I forgot, because I've got the picture up, but I put the scripture over it. So we'll do that since I remember. Let's see, I think I can find the book, Alma version quicker, and hopefully that will be footnoted to the one in Ether. Ether 319. Yep. Alma 32:34. And so, you've run the word, you're running the test. The word has begun to sprout, it's growing, you know the seed is now good. If it groweth not, it is not good. Duh. Therefore it is cast away. Now behold, because you have tried the experiment, and planted the seed, and it swelleth and sprouteth and beginneth to grow, you must needs know that the seed is good. We're talking about precepts, words. We're not talking about your feelings, but feelings are a result of seeing the sprouting of the word, the results beginning to grow on the word. But you're not done yet. Now behold, is your knowledge perfect? Yea, your knowledge is perfect in that thing, that it's a good seed. And so you're looking forward, excited for the coming fruit that will result from it. And your faith is dormant. Anybody know about volcanoes? What's a dormant volcano? I refer you to Dante's Peak, Pierce Brosnan, and the Terminator check. Stargate Atlantis has the Terminator 2 Terminator. Robert Patrick who is also in X-Files and some other stuff as well. In Stargate Atlantis, Season 1, the big 2-hour show, which condenses down without the commercials to an hour and a half, which is awesome. And so, yeah, YouTube now sucks. They used to be cool and hip when it was YouTube. Now it's corporate tube, and it sucks. You know, these corporations have their own YouTube channel. Why are they imposing on us on other people's channels? Get the hell off. YouTube won't do anything about it because money talks. And so anyway, he dies. A very horrible, gruesome death. By the hand of the Wraith. If you know the show, you know what I'm talking about. So, yeah. And so, yeah, I've been seeing some Stargate SG-1 episodes intermingled to keep time close together. Keeping track so I don't get lost. And so, yeah, I saw the one SG-1 episode of Relationships Lost. You know, Teal'c, they try to have him live in society when he's not at the base working off-world. And there's so much crime going on. And this ties into the Danites. They're criminals. I don't know what I'm doing. And he's being a good Samaritan, a good citizen of the community and the state and the nation. You know, good Boy Scout, Teal'c, the former first prime of Apophis. And as a result, the Trust find out that he's out in society, and they stalk him and exploit his neighbor, who's having trouble with her boyfriend, and they of course bond, and because of the Trust, the relationship was doomed. And so at the end, he has to go back to the Stargate because his living in society failed. And so, yeah, I could see her brilliant acting with a broken heart, having to watch him leave. So sad. You know, he's had trouble, if you know the show. His wife divorced him. I relate. So, anyway. And then there's that other woman that, yeah, tough times for him. Okay, and so then we go to the ether one, right? So we gotta get to the Danites. We don't want to make this an hour and a half. So this one, the brother of Jared, Mahanrai Mori Ankamer, as we all know the name, is so in tune with the Spirit, he's able to see the finger of Jesus through the veil, and it's because of his knowledge, not feelings, not faith. Knowledge. Faith must be transformed into knowledge, or your faith is dead. And so, because of the faith, because of the knowledge of this man, he could not be kept from beholding within the veil, and he saw the finger of Jesus, which, when he saw, he fell with fear. For he knew that it was the finger of the Lord, and he had faith no longer. For he knew nothing doubting. Faith, doubt. Faith, no doubt. Doubt, no faith. Because he knows. Okay? This perfect knowledge of God. And this is what you have to do with every single precept of the Book of Mormon. You need to run the test to know if it is true. And not false. Matthew 7, plagiarized in the Book of Mormon and 3rd Nephi. By their fruits ye shall know a false prophet's words. Okay? By their words. You can know when you put them to the test. So, today I got a comment reply video on Babylon conquers LDS Church. Changes name of the church to Marduk. I had fun with those. I wish I could have done a greater series on those. Cool picture. And so at Lincoln KKK 666 with the beehive, bronze beehive. He says, as a convert, I know, all caps, members are experiencing the visions and blessings of old. Guess which hymn he's been hearing? Did you know that was from a hymn? I did. I'm born and raised in the covenant. I tested the precepts of the Book of Mormon, and no, I don't have faith that the Book of Mormon is true. I know from a testimony. This guy is a convert, and he's saying he knows that members are experiencing the visions and blessings of old. First of all, blessing, it's not a feeling, it's the fruit. Visions, yeah, that's the Joseph Smith visions. And did you pay attention to the text that I put for Hinckley's little comment? A vision, by definition, means it did not occur. It's a vision. And you all fell for the con. So yes, the Spirit of God, like a fire, is burning. The visions and blessings of old I restore. We'll sing and we'll shout with the... Is that? That's Hosanna, isn't it? I'm getting the wrong hymn. No, it is. Crap. I have associative memory. I got the tune. Yeah, it's the Spirit of God, yeah. The Spirit of God, like a fire, is burning. The latter-day glory begins to come forth. The visions and blessings of old are returning, and angels are coming to visit the earth. Yeah, and this was sung at the dedication of the Kirtland Temple. And Danites were the ones. See, we tied this all together. You can see that this new convert was converted by a Danite. Were the ones who wrote in their journal in this valley decades later that they remember seeing the Kirtland Temple on fire and angels flying around. All to be popular with those who want itching ears. And so, this is what he's referring to here. See, the visions and blessings of the Danites are lies. They claim to see things in reality. That's what Hinckley is saying. That the vision that Joseph Smith had about Jesus and Heavenly Father, notice I cut off word Jesus, for the second vision. They're both the sun god at noonday. But nonetheless, this is how the Danites corrupt the English language to redefine words as part of their secret words, as a secret combination. And so then all caps, nothing will change this truth. Sorry. Visions do not occur. You've been lied to by the Danites. Just like the early Mormons were lied to, as Joseph Smith says in verse 1. The missionary Danites of Brigham Young were going out as evil-disposed and designing militant persons to overthrow Joseph Smith's church in 1830. And it's the exact same pattern that we just had in 2020 and we're about to have again this year. This church, same pattern. And I can't get my bleeping bleep government to act on it. Anyway. So, there's something else that he did not bring up as he continues on with polygamy. I told them, Jacob 2 says, surely David and Solomon had many wives and concubines which were abominable before me. I told them that section 132 contradicts the keystone and didn't come from Joseph. Yeah, it's a linguistic fingerprint of Brigham Young. But there's also section 117, which I put 117, verse 11. Let my servant Newell K. Whitney be ashamed of the Nicolaitan band and of all their secret abominations and of all his littleness of soul before me, saith the Lord. This is a forged document, by the way. This is not by Joseph Smith. In so forging the document to set it up for their plot, as this is all way to perfection. We'll get to it, because there it is. And come up to the land of Adam on Diamond, and be a bishop unto my people. Anybody know about The Sopranos or The Godfather or Nixon? Anybody familiar with the money man? The guy who goes out and collects the money for the mob boss? They're called a bag man. What do the bishops do? For section 119. They're the bag men. The deacons, before the internet, where people can just pay online, were the ones who would go around door to door of every member on the first Sunday of every month, Fast Sunday, and collect the fast offerings along with tithing from the members of the church, the deacons. I want my $2. deacons are the muscle for the bagman, the bishops, who will break your kneecaps if you don't pay up. This is what Newell K. Whitney became for the Danites. He became their bagman. But they lied to set it up that Joseph Smith is condemning him for being a part of this Nicolaitan band, the Danites, and to come to Adam-on-Diamond, the secret headquarters of the Danites. I've done the videos, 4K plus. 7 years. Benjamin Franklin Johnson. You may not recognize the name, but you may recognize that a Mormon was confronted by a hooligan who was going to shoot him if he didn't deny the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he never denied his testimony, and the pistol misfired, and church is true. Yeah, well, the bigger story, the rest of the story, is he moved with his family to Adam-on-Diamond in 1838. That's where he was arrested immediately, in Adam-on-Diamond. He's a member of the church. Aren't they members of the church? They arrested him. And so now his whole claim to being confronted by a hooligan who was going to shoot him unless he betrayed the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the same type of fraud that's going on here. He's retelling the story to cover up and hide the truth. Because that war in 1838 that got Joseph Smith framed and blamed by false brethren in Liberty Jail was over the land that the Danites are calling Adam-on-Diamond. They're claiming it as their land. They didn't incorporate it. And so the state, it's not incorporated, so it's fair, free land. And so the guy who was running in the election in Davies County said, I have an idea of how we can develop the land. He didn't know it was occupied. It's not incorporated, so if anybody's occupying it, they don't have a claim to the land. And so he was saying, I have an idea of how we can develop this land out here. The Danites said, oh crap. And they called all their Danites to Adam-on-Diamond. Benjamin Franklin Johnson, Newell K. Whitney, and over 1,000 others that they had been converting. To go to the polling station and make sure that guy does not win. They've got to keep their secret headquarters a secret. This isn't going to be a short video. And so, yeah, the whole war broke out over this. Because Curtis, was it Curtis or Stewart? I'm forgetting now, because both of them were there. Lee, Curtis, Stewart, Mendenhall, Cox, all your most popular Mormon names were there. They were cooing Joseph Smith's church. And that's why Thomas B. Marsh went and signed the affidavit to get the extermination order signed by the governor. That these Danites told him that Joseph Smith was the leader of the church, of the Danites. But Section 117 makes it very clear that he's not. He's condemning it. That was the boo-boo. See, this was said to have come out in 1838, but this never saw the light of day until the year before Brigham Young died and put his Doctrine and Covenants. This whole section right here, I don't remember if section 117 is a part of it. I'm guessing it was, because section 116 is involved in a continuation of papers that were compiled into the book that's on the Joseph Smith papers. So we see the original ink writing, and we see where they started up, because it's fresh, brand new ink for section 116, which includes some stuff, and I'd have to go back and check to make sure it was also 115, 16, 17, and others that came out at that same time period, the year before Brigham Young died in 1877. It came out in 1876. And so 1838 to 1876, that's 40 years. And I did that video, Google searching, live on the video, how long does ink take to fade? 40 years. Fresh ink on faded ink. They wrote it right before they published it. Section 116 is about Adam-on-Diamond. The background story from the text that wasn't included in the scripture was that Joseph Smith visited Adam-on-Diamond and named it Adam-on-Diamond. Nope. Never happened. They made it all up. And so it's strange that they had forgotten about the extermination order. Or that Benjamin Franklin Johnson wrote about it in his journal. Like Dark Helmet said, evil always loses because evil is dumb, right? That was evil, right? Not good. Evil. These are action figures. They're not dolls. Baby Yoda is an action figure. And those of you who remember when I was in West Valley, you know I have other action figures too. They survived and made it here. They're in the closet. They're not ready to come out yet. But yeah, I was using them as props in the background for my videos. Oh, hilarious. All right. So, you'll notice in verse 11 of the Nicolaitan, or Nicolaitan, whatever, I don't care. It's got footnote A to Revelation chapter 2, verse 6 and 15. It's actually two passages, and I think it's 6 and 15, but regardless. And so, under Wikipedia, under Nicolaitism, it gives us some understanding beyond the blatantly obvious that's recorded in Revelation. But you can see the errors that are in here, because the person who's typing this up is a Christian. You can see the bias here. Just like with Mormon stuff, you can see the Mormon bias. The Danites no longer exist. They were just a rogue faction. Joseph Smith got rid of them. Church is true. And so they're saying it's an early Christian sect mentioned twice in the book of Revelation. There's some problems. The book of Revelation was written in the 200s 100 years before the first creed of Christianity that created Christianity. So how could this be an early Christian sect when Christian sects hadn't even been created yet by Roman Emperor Constantine? See the bias? The first creed said that the Bible, written by the Jews in separate scrolls, are now literal histories. And it's about Jesus, the Christian Christ, not about the Jewish Christ of prophecy of the latter days. Revelation. And so, you have to ignore that part. And you need to know the real story, that they weren't Christians, that around 200 you have Gnostics and you have others that transformed from the original Therapeutae that were around during the actual Roman period time of when the Gospels were set in time for the prophecies of the future. And that's why there's 12 disciples who follow a teacher. That's from the Therapeutae. And so the book of Revelations talks about the 12 churches in Turkey. Those were Therapeutae camps back in those days. Cities, dwellings, hamlets, whatever. And so get Gnosticism out of my mind. The Dead Sea Scrolls, the Qumran community, they were a form of this. And there's some other documents that were found talking about a teacher of righteousness. And he would have 12 disciples following him. That's what they're referring to as the Therapeutae. The Qumran community were a Therapeutae type organization. Therapy, healers. Okay, and so, but yeah, Eusebius, when he's writing to show how great Constantine is, talking about what led to Constantine, he's talking about the 200s that would eventually make the Gnostics and the Arians and Marcion. I think Marcion may have been the Arians. Anyway, they got the reference books. That's what the books are for. So I don't have to memorize. But anyway, and so the bishops who attended the Nicene Council were all separate congregations, and the leader was called a bishop because they found bishop in their particular creed of a gospel. All right? Yeah, Acts starts off bishopric, and then Philippians, bishops and deacons. Timothy, 1 Timothy, a bishop he desireth, a bishop then must be blameless. And so, yeah, this is where they got the idea from bishop, is Acts. And Acts also came out in the 200s along with Revelation. And so, thus, Acts was a very popular book when it came out. And so, based on that, they named themselves bishop because of the book of Acts that called for bishops. Because it's not in the Gospels. But it's Acts. It's where it starts off. And there's some others that were separate. They weren't all combined into a Bible yet. And so, yeah, these 200s were when bishops began to emerge as leaders of congregations. They were not united. They all had their separate gospel. They all claimed that theirs was the one true gospel and everybody else was wrong. And there was mass excommunications of people not belonging to their church. It's like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints goes and specifically declares that the new woman of the community of Christ as the president is now excommunicated. Or Brigham Young excommunicates Sidney Rigdon, who already went and formed his own church again after Joseph died. Or James Strain. And he probably did, if I were to check on that. Brigham Young most likely excommunicated everyone who was not loyal and went with him. Would not surprise me, because he did it in 1839. Okay. And so, according to Revelation, 6 and 15, they were considered heretical. And so you'd have to read those two, which is what I should have done rather than going to Wikipedia, which is a secondary source. Okay, so verse 6, but this thou hast, that thou hatest the deeds of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate. And verse Baalam 15, wasn't it? Yeah, there it is. And so talking to a different church, church in Pergamos, so hast thou also them that hold the doctrine of the Nicolaitan, which thing I hate. Not really much there to explain it. And so then they're talking about early church fathers. Again, you need to find out when they lived to know if they were church fathers or not. Epiphanius was 4th century, so yes, he's an early church father. Theodoret of Cyrus, early church father, 100 years after Epiphanius. But Clement of Alexandria, I don't think so. Tertullian, I don't think so. They're not listing the dates, but I'm pretty sure I remember from Tom Robinson's courses that I took. Actually, it was only the one course for the early church history period with the creation of Constantine's. That's where I got my textbooks from. It's from him taking that course. The other courses that he was teaching was Old Testament cultures. And so, if you go to Amazon and you search for Mastering Greek, Thomas Robinson, and you'll see a CD-ROM in one of the versions. That would have been me that made that. But I had just graduated. So he came to me and asked me if I would do that for him, and I said, I graduated. I'm heading off to Utah to get dumped off by my wife, who's going to abandon me and steal the kids and all my property and my research of deciphering Paleo-Hebrew that I'll be doing by February. Anyway. And so, you have to pick the right guys. You can't pick the ones after Constantine is the story for that. Now here we have Isidore. Which, isn't that the name of the girl in Lady Hawk? What is her name? Do we have a song for this? We don't. There's our song. Lady Hawk theme. That was awesome. And a solar eclipse even. Memories at Rick's College, because that was shown at the theater. Edited. I guess he says something that was offensive. It's a PG movie, isn't it? Oh, Isabeau. There it is. Isabeau. Michelle Pfeiffer. Okay. So not Isidore. I Isidore you. This is a guy. And so this is way later in 636. And he wrote a book and put in the Nicolaitans are so-called from Nicolaus, deacon of the Church of Jerusalem. See how they're already rewriting history? Who, along with Stephen and others, Stephen didn't exist. Who was ordained by Peter, didn't exist. See what's going on since Constantine? And so then you gotta, this is questionable if you don't understand this already. We know he's lying, so we have to be very cautious to find out what the truth is, like section 117. Without those other books with A Way to Perfection, which I didn't go over, did I? Didn't go over. Those of you who've been following me for a while know exactly what I'm referring to here. Page 290 and 291, this is how I'm here. Because I found out. The church is pissed. Because it says, the members of the church at large will not know of it. The saints cannot know of it. Oops. Verse 24 of Helaman chapter 6. There will be a transfer of authority at Adam-on-Diamond. See? From the usurper and impostor Lucifer to the rightful king Jesus Christ. Not real. So in 1838, what happened was a transfer of authority from Joseph Smith to Brigham Young. Joseph Smith is called Lucifer. Brigham Young is called Jesus. Now, do you understand why 19 July 1840 didn't get published by Brigham Young? Why the Jesus was put in the name of the church. And so this is a plan for the future, a plot, a coup of the government. It's about the government, the reins of government. Jesus will assume the reins of government, and the priesthood will be its officers. This is a coup. And I can't get the bleeping government to step in and stop them. Dear God, they know Lee is responsible. They got the texts. He's doing exactly what his ancestor did. And Lee, or Curtis and Stewart also voted to decertify the election. And so yes, Romney did not vote to decertify the election, and they almost murdered him. And I warned Romney. He didn't listen, and now he's out. He quit for this one. They tried to assassinate him in 2020, and now he's out for this one. And he wonder why? As a Mormon, he's brand new, and he's out. He was in my district. That's why I was able to communicate with him. Out in West Valley. And so yes, Adam on Diamond, this is all code for the coup. Exact same pattern. And there, Joseph Smith Sr., son of Hiram Smith, has been brainwashed by Heber C. Kimball. The only Smith family to come to Utah. Not Lucy Mack, not Emma. Not William's wife, if he had one. I think she died. And not Samuel's wife. I think he had one. He was murdered by poison. They used poison to murder people back then. Guess how the church tried to assassinate me for all these years. Trying to poison me. West Valley City, after this. Poison. Tried to poison me. And Gail Miller's concentration camp of hell of human trafficking. They again tried to poison me. And the two women who boo-booed to get me here are now gone. Fired because they failed to keep me locked up in Gail Miller's concentration camp of hell of human trafficking. This is how evil this church is. But we're not done yet, because what he talks about is what would have been known to this Nicolaitan band called the Danites. Pay attention. Isidore of Seville. Nicholas means person of victory. So they are the victorious ones. They're an extremist group. None of the other groups wanted to be associated with them. They're an extremist group. Their ideas are military. Their views are to the extreme of the normal Christian. This is how they're being portrayed, remember? So they're Christian, they're militant, they're extremist in their religious views. And so, despite the lies, this is the myth. He abandoned his wife because of her beauty, that whosoever wanted to might enjoy her. She was a whore. What is Joseph Smith accused of being? A polygamist. Having sex with other Mormon husbands' wives. The practice turned into debauchery, with partners being exchanged in turn. These Danites were doing this to the Mormons' wives. If you were a Danite, you were involved in swinging. Those you converted to the church, join our swingers club. Joseph approves. Just keep it a secret. And I did the video going over Lyman White's son, Orange White. I know, oh my God. He goes to visit Higby, and he's writing in his journal about this, talking about his experience. And Brother Higby is there with 2 wives. And Brother Higby tells him, shh, Joseph approves of this. Now, do you see why the Danites, use the Nicolaitan band in section 117's forged documents? They know who they are. Joseph Smith knows that he was betrayed by them. Doesn't know who, but he knows that it was a secret combination within his church. And then he figures out it's the missionaries in 1838. Doesn't know who, because not all of them were. Some of them were sincere from the original church that Joseph Smith founded. And those were the ones that were being framed and blamed along with Joseph. So Sidney Rigdon's daughter, 1843, she supposedly signs an affidavit that Joseph Smith was sealed to her, despite her husband. Never happened. It's a forged document. Because she's the enemy's son. That's how the Danites perceive everybody. If you're not with us, you're against us, and you're the enemy, when they are the enemy. They twist things around. And so, Jesus condemns them in the book of Revelation? Right. Jesus is talking through John. Oh my hell. Christians, stop it. And so yes, you're looking for a Christian organization that is extremist in their religious views, taking away agency, Lucifer's plan of happiness, who are militant, and who are involved in abominable sex crimes, sharing other men's wives. So it looks like I'm going to be posting this tomorrow, because we're nowhere near done unless we do a part 3. We'll finish the polygamy part, because then he gets on to DNA testing. We'll make that a part 3. Have to come up with another clever title. I still need tomorrow to get to the promised temple sex. Temple rape by pharaohs. With Rebecca tomorrow. Okay, so then the one guy that he was talking to talked about the scripture in Jacob 2 that said, if I, the Lord, will raise up seed, I will command. And so he cleverly responded, if you take that scripture by itself out of context, it could mean that. But he then tells them to read the 10 verses before and the 10 verses after. And tell me if you think that's the correct interpretation of that verse. So proud. He then said that Abraham had more than one wife. Oh my hell, seriously? I asked him if the Lord commanded Abraham to do polygamy. He said no, but that God allowed it. Oh my hell. First of all, you fell into the trap. Abraham is not real. Not a historical character. Constantine turned him into a historical character. He's prophecy and revelation of the latter days. And that's where this would come into play. Is that you've got two wives dominantly. You know, Jacob, yeah, he's got two wives plus the two concubines. But outside of that, it's the pattern of two, because it's a prophecy of the latter-day Christ. Those of you who are still listening, who saw the video this morning and yesterday, me, did you put me to the test? Have you checked to see if I've been prophesying correctly? Have I been revealing the days and the hours correctly? Have I been translating correctly? Have I had visions? Dreams? Yes. So who's true? I am. All you had to do was run the test. It's what you should have done with the church leaders. They're false. But nonetheless, they're all about me. I've had 2 failed marriages. So Samson, 2 wives, 2 failed marriages. Exactly as prophesied, except that the first wife didn't burn to death. That was just the solar eclipse on the 14th of October, 2023 in Virgo. But she is Mormon. Mormons are to be burned if they don't listen to me, so that I can save you. I can only save you so much until the prophecies have to all be fulfilled. You are now past feeling, and the consequences of your past feeling and your unbelief will naturally occur. You cause it, not me. I'm trying to save your life. And Mormons want me dead because they're taught by the Danites. The coup. And so, it has nothing to do with ordering polygamy, because you can go into the laws of Moses and he denounces polygamy unless certain conditions, like the brother dies and so the other brother has to take care of the wife too. But otherwise, no. And then as I do this Rebecca video for you, tomorrow I'm hoping, that it will be more clear for you as to how it's a prophecy. And so, the Danites love to make people stupid and take them down rabbit holes because of their stupidity about the scripture and keeping them stupid. That's why Mormon apologists do what they do. They get the church in deeper trouble by doing that because they don't understand. If they knew the truth, they wouldn't lie, because it would expose them. And so, they are very successful, Mormon apologists, the Danites, Christians, on those who have no knowledge and only have opinion or belief or feelings, because they can attack you for that because you don't know. And so that's what you'll hear from MAGA, and I hear it from Mormons. Well, that's your opinion. We'll agree to disagree. You can have your own beliefs, but I have mine, and I know the truth. No, you don't. You just said you don't. If beliefs are truth, and I have beliefs, and you have beliefs, then we both have truth. But our truth contradicts each other. I'm an ex-fo, never-mo, anti-Mormon, anti-Christ, Korihor, and you're a faithful and true chosen one master race Mormon. How can both of us be true? They can't. You know that because you accuse me I'm wrong. And so, yeah, this is the kind of dumbass comments that they use as arguments. They don't understand that they're stupid, and they're trying to throw things out and see what sticks to go, aha, gotcha, church is true. But did you see how I exposed them? Nicolaitan Band was just added today. I already had the 3 witnesses. Benjamin Franklin Johnson, Section 117, Section 116, Thomas B. Marsh, all put together the way to perfection. All these different claims about the same stuff. And you put them all together and you see what the facts are. And you can eliminate the lies of Christianity or Mormonism of the Danites. And so, are you still talking about polygamy? You are with the DNA. Oh crap, you go on to polygamy for 2 more. I don't want to do an hour and a half. And so we went back to Mormon 2 churches only. Okay, so I'm going to have to continue to keep the same theme in place here. Alright, so then he says that after lots of DNA testing, the only children that Joseph Smith had came from Emma. Yeah. Well, John C. Bennett and some others were telling the women that they had abortion elixirs that they were giving them so that they wouldn't have the baby, to try to cover it up and hide their sin. And so, yeah, the women who came with Brigham willingly versus the ones who are sealed to Joseph, those are your whores. The ones who didn't come willingly but were sealed to Joseph, those were your innocent Mormons who came because of certain prophesied events for latter days, like Hiram's wife. She never had sex with Heber, he just took care of her. Desdemona Fulmer of John Solomon Fulmer came because John Solomon Fulmer was told by Joseph Smith in Carthage jail that he needed to go with Brigham for the 2 families to produce me. Not Joseph Smith, or Joseph Fielding Smith Jr. If you saw that, where I talked about that, going over the chart. God is angry, and he's hunting down presidents of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Don't want to mess with the deity who's doing all this, and yet Nelson doesn't fear him? It's you we aren't supposed to fear, Nelson. Do you not understand this? Are people not communicating with you properly? That there's some higher power that is smiting every single president from Brigham Young. It's the curse of those who murdered Joseph Smith. The real curse. And you're not being told about this, Nelson? Oaks, you're next. Have you not been told? There's a curse on every single president. We need to make sure that that gets on a title one day. The curse of those who murdered Joseph Smith. Okay. I already have Lucifer confronts Joseph Smith and the curse of those who murdered him. Maybe I can throw that in the title. Is the title going to be short enough? We'll see. Also, Joseph said publicly in Nauvoo, in the Grove of Trees there. See, he's helped me with the Joseph Smith papers. He knows these documents. He's been reading through them as he's been helping me. This is where I know he got it from. That he had employed multiple scribes full-time for years, and that he can prove all his accusers as liars. Joseph is documented. But strangely, Joseph Smith's documents tank after Liberty Jail. And I was told as a kid, after Liberty Jail, his number of records increased. No, they didn't. Because Joseph Smith got out again, the Danites were then activated to Plan B. They incorporated Nauvoo, by the way. They learned. Nauvoo is the Danite new headquarters. After the extermination order chased them out of Missouri, so that they could no longer have that land. And so getting their land back with the land grab video I did is why the church is doing a land grab. All same pattern. To own the land, to control the land, to control the lives of human beings. Oh boy, we're at the end of the month, aren't we? Or at the beginning of the new month. My food supply is depleted, and so my ring is now loose because of the body mass that I'm losing at the end of the month with the lack of food. Plus, I also got bit by another mosquito, apparently, during my morning run the other day. God. I can always tell when I get bit by the mosquito now. West Nile virus, they're not talking about it here in Salt Lake. I've been reporting it for you over and over again. Oh, there it is. That right there. Dear God. Live on air. There it is. There's the evidence. That's why I'm a little sick. Anyway. And so, he was also claiming that the polygamists had up to 40 wives. Dear God. Heber C. Kimball, in case you missed the videos I've talked about years ago. In 1829, when was the church founded? When did Heber C. Kimball join? 1829. You have to be connected to his family to see it. Otherwise, you're not allowed. I'm allowed. Because I have a tie-in. He got a woman pregnant. Whether he actually married her or not, that's unclear, but he got her pregnant in 1829, not his first wife. And then Heber C. Kimball joins the church as already a polygamist. So yes, he was Brigham Young's number one the whole time. The counselor in criminal mobocracy. And so that's why I did the one video, if you remember, last year about rehashing a test is coming by Heber C. Kimball. That J. Golden Kimball, the swearing apostle, had also referred to and reminded Mormons about. And that's not a prophecy. That's their plot to coup America. Should I do that one again? And then there's John Taylor's one about what they're planning to do to New York City. And so Heber, C. Kimball, Test, and John Taylor, New York. And then obviously we have to put I feel safe in New York City. I feel safe in New York City. I feel safe in New York City. AC/DC. For those of you who are uncultured. Yeah, Emma knew nothing of Polygamous Wives by Joseph. Joseph Smith has letters. They write back and forth to each other. There are no letters to from Joseph Smith or to Joseph Smith from other wives. There's so much evidence that it's disgusting that exfo nevermos don't even bother to try to study. You know, I've got another person who's emailing me on academia who's asking about this. He's saying, well, then are all these other published books liars? Yeah, they are. They got it from the journals of the women who claimed that they're the Danite women, the whores. The whores are the ones who said Joseph Smith had sex with them and married them. The whores. So are you a descendant of a whore? Now do you understand why it's the whore of Babylon? And so, yeah. So yeah, you have secret meetings. The Council of 50 were secret meetings. That was the secret combination government of Brigham Young, because Joseph Smith is now running for president. And so thus, oh, he's running for president. Perfect opportunity to go back and coup the America again, as it failed in 9/11/1826. And instead they murdered Joseph, and then the Confederates were the ones who then took over that part of the coup plot and caused the Civil War. Assassinated Lincoln instead. And then we know they took over the government because the law for DC, turning it into a corporation and keeping it a separate, distinct land rather than a state in the Union or within a state. Wasn't that 1887? Somewhere around that time period. And then also the street maps, the street design, how to design the streets, also from that same bill that got passed. And thus the inverted pentagram of Lucifer pointing at the White House. The coup plot from the War of 1812 that burned down the White House. And so everybody knows about the street maps of the inverted pentagram with the Scottish Rites Masonic Lodge between the horns. They did it. They failed with the Civil War, but still got in, and still had their plot and plans for DC this year because they failed in 2020. You're welcome, federal government and Mitt Romney. Church tried to murder you and I saved your life, and nobody will ever know about it. It was the lawsuit I filed against the church that Bill Barr saw. And that's the same charge that they're using on all the January 6th citizens, not the government leaders. And so the Mormon, who has just got busted just last week, yep, he's going to be charged with my charge against the church. I helped save America that year, all by myself. Dear God. And so they know me. They've shut me down. YouTube, dear God. How did I get 226 views in 1 hour last night, guys? How'd you drop the ball on that one? It exposes that they specifically are targeting me to silence me, to keep me from being heard by other people who really want to hear my videos. They know they cannot let my voice be heard. And I just caught them. And you notice, this whole weekend, no terroristic threats. I'm able to do my videos for hours and no shutdown, no freezing of the camera. This also means it's an actual person who's specifically targeting me during work because he's on vacation for this Labor Day weekend. I'm able to figure this out. Our government apparently doesn't know how to do their job. And so, then he says that the other guy got really loud and with a condescending smile said, "Wow." Which, I had to Google search that. It means that the other person doesn't believe you and is being sarcastic and condescending. I've always used wow to mean wow. That's wow. But nope, it doesn't mean wow anymore. And too many of these younger generations think that I'm a boomer. Nope, I'm a product of the 69 generation. Summer of 69. My parents, however, were boomers. Dear God, the baby boom. And so yeah, the summer of 69 is a baby boom, but it's not the baby boom after World War II, which is called the baby boom generation. Dumbass kids. And so the guy was saying, "Are you saying Joseph never practiced polygamy?" Nope, he never did. John C. Bennett excommunicated. Why would he excommunicate him if he's the leader of the Danites having this whole organization of sex, orgies, just like Aaron and the golden cow? And then he said in disbelief, "You're the first person I ever heard say that." I asked him if he would forward my video to him because of the conversation that matched the morning one that I did, not the part one, because it just coincided. Amazing grace. And then he said, there's an estimated 60 branches of groups that claim to come from Joseph, and the only one to accuse Joseph of polygamy were polygamists, Brigham Youngs. James Strang didn't at first, but with John C. Bennett, yeah. And then John C. Bennett would go on after murder occurred. To create a halcyon order of the Illuminati. Pentagram of Lucifer through the Scottish Rites, 9/11, 1826, the secret combination of Lucifer in the Book of Mormon, Brigham Young's Danites, the Nauvoo Temple, Salt Lake Temple. It's all there for you guys. You just have to reach out and look. And so, yeah, you got to pay attention. The women who accused Joseph Smith were whores themselves. Sorry, women. You can't believe a woman just because she's a woman. You got to do your research on her, because she could be lying. So that's sad, because, yeah, the first wife, so yeah, she was a Danite of a different type, but still. Grafted in. And so, yeah, there was, in Alberta as well, there was a problem of the Danite condition, debauchery. Alright, so then the two churches only is where we leave off. We've got two main paragraphs, and we're going to talk about King David. Cool. We're going to be talking about King David again with this Rebecca. Probably want to get to it tomorrow, despite this one being an hour and a half. Alright, so I can watch the one for Stargate, and then number 7 for Stargate. Good to go for the night.